Have you ever pushed the ball down a hill? I remember being a kid and doing just that. We had this steep slope behind the house where we grew up, and if you had a basketball at the very top and just gave it the slightest little nudge, man, that thing would take off like it had a mind of its own. At first, it would roll slow and then real control, but as it kept going, it picked up speed. And before long, you couldn't catch it if you tried. That's momentum. Once it's moving, it keeps moving. And if it's pointed in the right direction, there's almost nothing that can stop it. Now, let's flip that image. Imagine if instead of pushing a ball forward, you set it at the top of the hill and try to stop it from rolling. Every ounce of energy you had would be spent just trying to keep it still. And the moment you slipped up, gravity would take over. That's momentum too. It can work for you or against you. Why am I starting here? Because momentum is one of the most powerful forces we have in life. My name is Antoine Rivers, and this is the Conviction Fiction. And when you think about momentum, it's invisible. You can't grab it, you can't hold it in your hand, but you feel it. You know when you've got it, and you definitely know when you've lost it. And for those of us who've lived two lives, one behind bars and one on the outside, we know momentum better than most. You see, here's the thing. Behind those walls, every move you made had weight. There was no such thing as a small decision. Choosing where to sit in the chow hall wasn't just about food, it was about safety. It was about identity, about who had your back and who might be against you. Even how you walked the yard, who you nodded at, who you ignored, all of that mattered. That was momentum in a very confined lane. You were either building momentum towards peace or building momentum towards chaos. And that's what this show is about. Today, we're going to discuss momentum because, after we fast forward to life on the streets, and those lanes are different now, but the principle is the same. Every move matters. The difference now is that momentum isn't about survival, so to speak, it's about purpose. Out here, the question becomes, what are you building toward? What kind of momentum are you letting carry you? And that's what today's episode is all about. It's about that positive momentum, the momentum that you should have. Now, you could get some negative momentum, but I want to talk about the power of momentum in a holistic way, not in a way most people frame it, because I'm not here to dwell on the struggles of reentry today. We've done that. And don't get me wrong, those struggles are real. They shape us. But I want to lean into something deeper, something bigger, the purpose behind every move that we make. Because let me tell you, the real difference between being locked down and living free is intention. Inside, you act because you have to. Out here, you act because you choose to. And that little shift from reaction to intention, that's where the power of momentum takes root. Now, don't get me wrong, momentum can be tricky. If you think about it, every habit you have right now, good or bad, started with momentum. You didn't just wake up one day smoking a pack of cigarettes a day or eating clean or reading every night. No, it started with something small, a small move that picked up speed. Momentum built that. Here's the kicker, guys. Momentum doesn't care whether you're rolling toward your best self or your worst self. It's just going to roll. That's why it's so important to ask, what direction is my momentum carrying me? And that's what we're going to tackle today on the Conviction Fiction. Okay, I'll be honest, man. When I first came home, I didn't think about momentum like that. That little thing I just gave you a second ago, I didn't think of it like that. I thought about the big moves, getting a job, checking in with my parole or probation officer, just trying to rebuild trust with my family. I thought if I could just knock down those big milestones, I'd be good. But what I learned was that the little daily choices, the things nobody else saw, were the ones building the real momentum in my life. Like whether I got up early or I hit the snooze button, whether I wrote in a journal or numbed out on my phone playing Tune Blast, right? Whether I made a phone call to network with someone or just said, you know what, I'll just do it tomorrow. Every one of those moments was a push on the ball. And let me tell you, when that ball starts rolling downhill in the wrong direction, it can feel impossible to stop. But when it's rolling towards purpose, well, that's when you become unstoppable. Okay, so let me pose this to you. For all my listeners out there, what's the purpose behind your next move? I'm gonna ask you that question again. What's the purpose behind your next move? That's not just some motivational question. That's real life because momentum is not neutral. You're either building it toward the life you want or the life you don't. Because with inaction, there's a choice. If you choose not to act towards your future, you're choosing to not build your future. And if you've ever been where I've been, locked in the cell, counting the days, blah, 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 you know the cost of wasted momentum. Inside, you waste a day and it feels like nothing changed. Nothing's changed. You just wake up and do the same thing the next day. But string those wasted days together, and then suddenly you've lost years of your life, and they're saying, "Hey, look, it's time to go home. Like you can't get out." So out here, and this is what we do on the Conviction Fiction. We talk about the success stories, and every guest that I've had on here, they tell you about a moment where they knew they had to get the momentum going in the right way. Because out here, the same principle applies that you were in there. Waste enough days scrolling, numbing, distracting yourself, and momentum will do its job. It'll carry you somewhere you never meant to go. Probably nowhere. You won't get none of those dreams that you thought about, none of that stuff. So let me circle back to that ball on the hill. You know, we were playing basketball. Imagine standing at the top with two paths, one down going downhill into chaos and the other going downhill into purpose. Both paths starts with a push, right? The ball doesn't care which direction is rolling. That's on you. And the whole beauty behind this is that you don't need to make giant leaps. You just need to make consistent pushes in the right direction because momentum multiplies. One intentional choice today makes tomorrow easier, and the next day, and then the next. So you see what I'm going. Before long, you've built a rhythm, a force, a current you can ride. That's when you realize momentum isn't just movement, it's alignment, right? Now, let me slow down for a second and be just completely transparent with you. This isn't about perfection. Nobody gets it right every day. I've stumbled plenty of times, probably gonna stumble tomorrow, but I've let momentum carry me places that I didn't want to be before in my life. Here's the lesson: momentum can be redirected. And that's what the podcast is about. That's what the conviction fiction was built on. Just like you can grab that ball, set it back at the top, and give it a new push, you can reset your momentum at any given moment. Now, that's going to take intention, guys. It takes humility, and sometimes it takes the courage to stop mid roll and say, oh, wait, 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 wait. This isn't where I want to end up. Okay. That's the foundation we're building this episode on because momentum is powerful, but it's only as good as the purpose behind it. Now, as we go through this episode, we're going to dive deeper a little bit to, I might take you back to life behind bars and show you how momentum worked in that environment, but we'll wait. We'll just see how it flows, right? That's momentum. So, um, we also probably shift to life out here where momentum looks completely different, but feels just as heavy. I want to talk about purpose behind every move and how that purpose shapes your momentum. And finally, I'll probably end up closing with a call to action. I'm going to challenge someone, you, the listener. How can you keep your momentum rolling in the right direction? So before I move forward, I want to sit this with you. I'm going to put this question on you. What direction is your momentum carrying you right now? Right now. If you could just stop and say, like, okay, the choices that I made today or the choices that I made yesterday, this is the direction this momentum is going to give me, right? Know your purpose. That's what we're talking about when we say intention. Because if you don't know the answer, then your ball might already be rolling and it might not be rolling where you want it to go. Okay. So that's why I asked that question because when I think back to life behind those walls, I told you I was going to talk about it. Momentum looked a whole lot different than it does today. See, people on the outside might picture prison as this place where nothing happens, just a bunch of men sitting around, men and women, sitting around staring at while doing push-ups on the weight pile, stabbing each other, eating at the chow hall, gang stuff, and that's what they think prison is all about. And yeah, sometimes it looks like that on the surface. But anyone who's lived it knows that momentum is always at work in there. Inside, every move that you make carries weight. Every decision matters. It can be life or death. Take the chow hall, for example. Something as simple as where you sit has layers. Now, for the people that have been locked up, you know what I'm talking about. You don't just plop down at the first empty seat you see. You got to look around the room, see who running the table, who has beef with who might test you if you sit in the wrong place. Momentum is in the air. You can feel it, especially if something had happened prior. The wrong move builds momentum towards conflict. Now, the right move builds momentum towards peace or at least towards your survival. Even walking the yard, like we've been on the yard, it seems basic, right? You just go outside, finally you get some air, you can go to the weight pile, go to the basketball court, or just sit against the corner and smoke cigarettes or drink coffee. You know how they go. But who you nod at or give respect to, who you ignore, how you carry yourself, it all builds momentum, right? We've I've we've seen the stories of people on the yard that didn't have a certain amount of respect or didn't have a certain type of aura about themselves and end up, on the wrong side of the shaft, so to speak. So you show too much weakness and momentum starts rolling against you. Act too tough, and now you got a target on your back because somebody's gonna say, okay, we're gonna see how tough you are. So in that environment, momentum is about balance. You're constantly weighing every step, every look, every word, because momentum doesn't forgive carelessness. And here's the thing, like it doesn't just stop behind bars. Like the momentum behind bars doesn't just show up in relationships or safety. It shows up in your own daily routine. So if you let yourself sleep all day, skip workouts, skip reading, skip writing, that becomes your momentum. If you don't go to classes, if you are not taking baths or showers, days start blurring, weeks starts to blur. Before long, you've built momentum towards stagnation, towards wasting your time, and towards losing yourself. Now, on the flip side, some guys use momentum to their advantage. I like to consider myself one of those members. I built a routine. I woke up at the same time. I would go outside, hit the yard, lift me some weights, go read some books, go to a class. I would write letters. I would stay sharp because those routines, once they were stacked up, it built momentum for me. That momentum carried me through that long bid, right? And I'm telling you, those brothers that were doing it and sisters that do it just like that, we come out a little bit different. So if you are able to listen to this podcast and you are locked up right now, get the momentum built in the right direction, because once you train yourselves to make every move intentional, it carries over. That's the momentum that we're talking about on this show. Now, I'll give you an example. I knew a guy who spent like years working out religiously. rain or shine, fights on the block or fights in the park. He lockdowns. You can stop him from hitting that routine. At first, it looked like just a way to pass time. Maybe he was just trying to stay focused, and it kept him, out of the bullshit. But what I saw was his momentum. He wasn't just building his body; he was building his discipline. Every rep was a push downhill. By the time he got out, that momentum carried him right into becoming a personal trainer. Okay. Like, despite everything that was going on around him, he was dedicated to working out. And when he got out, he became so successful, or he's so much in a routine that people wanted to have that same type of discipline. Like, how in the hell you get up every day to do the same thing? I mean, he had did the shit for years. What I'm saying is that behind bars, you don't get the luxury of random moves. Every move that you do is loaded. Every move builds momentum in one direction or another. And whether you knew it or not, those daily choices were either stacking time against you or stacking strength inside of you. So when I talk about the power of momentum, I'm not just pulling some bullshit quote, motivational Tony Robbins shit out of thin air. I lived it. And it kind of carries over into my life today. No, it does carry over into my life today. Right. Um, I've seen people rise because of it, and I've seen people fall because of it, because they're doing the same old shit. Right. Um, it's about discipline. It's about being able to shape your days even when the calendar doesn't even seem to move. So now that we're on the outside, I think it's um, very important to step into freedom, because the contrast can be sharper. See, in prison, momentum, it kind of keeps you alive. You out the way. Out here, momentum builds your life. So when I first came home, I thought freedom meant, breathing easy. I could wake up when I wanted to, like I could just finally relax. No more looking around the chow hall, no more watching my back, or no more pulling up on dudes to say that, hey, I need to make sure we good, just out of respect. But it didn't take long to realize momentum didn't disappear with those bars. It just changed shape. So out here, what many people on the show would tell you, and what I'm here to tell you, it's about direction. It isn't about survival anymore. Every choice, every move is still loaded. But instead of, will this keep me safe today? The question becomes, will this move build the future that I want? Right? It's not about being able to survive. It's more about building a future. Okay, so let me just break it down. Out here, it shows up in things like finances. Do you spend your first paycheck on distractions, or do you stack it for stability? That's momentum. You can get your ball rolling right there, right? Um, it also shows up in, say, relationships. Do you reconnect with the same crowd you knew before, or do you build new circles? That's momentum. Another one, like habits. Okay, do you roll out of bed late and start scrolling on your phone, or do you set an alarm and start chasing goals? That's another example of momentum. See, the difference out here is that the lane is wide open. In prison, you're playing defense most of the time. Out here, you're playing offense. You've got the ball. The field is wide open, and momentum will take you wherever you push it. Now, I learned this fast when I started chasing opportunities, whether it was with work, with writing the books, or with building the businesses that I have now. The first few steps were shaky. Nobody knew my name. Nobody gave a fuck about what my vision was. But I kept pushing the ball. I kept making moves. And then I aligned myself. Shout out to my wife. Small intentional moves created the life that I wanted, right? This is the life that I choose to live. Now, write a page, record an episode, make a phone call, send an email. Those little small steps on its own, it don't look like much, but the momentum stacked. And once that ball got rolling, people started noticing, doors started opening, and now you're able to even hear me on this podcast. And that's the beauty of momentum out here. It compounds. You don't need to hit home runs every day. You just need to keep swinging. And there's a something that I definitely appreciate, nowadays, especially coaching baseball. I'm coaching baseball with, what that's another story. That's a whole nother episode. Anyway, you just need to keep swinging, guys, because each swing builds the rhythm. Each swing will carry you further. It cuts both ways now because I don't want to, I don't sugarcoat shit. Negative momentum is out here. It's just as powerful as the positive. You skip one day of progress, then you're gonna skip 2 days. Then guess what? That's a whole week. Before you know it, the ball is now rolling in the wrong direction. And stopping it feels harder than pushing it forward ever was. That's why intention is everything. Out here, you can't afford to move randomly. I get on my sons, man. I get on my wife sometimes. You can't, you out here, and let's just be honest. People ain't playing fair out here when it comes to government, politics, relationships. People are not playing fair. So every move that you make should have intention. Every single move. And that's not me just trying to like school you on some shit. That's just the reality. That's the reality of everything. So finding that purpose behind every move is vitally important. This is where it's going to get deeper because purpose is the difference maker. Behind bars, purpose might have been just staying alive, keeping peace, not getting jammed up, or protecting your name. Out here, purpose is about legacy. It's about what you're building beyond just yourself. Let me get it to you straight. All right. Momentum without purpose is just motion. I know that's one of the things that like the young uh, people say out here. You gotta have motion, right? You just want to look busy. It feels active, but it's not really getting you anywhere worth going. Now, purpose is what turns momentum into progress. For me, instead of I'm just gonna like for real, instead of I like fine dining. I like eating places. I mean, I was locked up. I like to go places. I like to see stuff. But using some of my money to put it in stocks, that's different, right? Purpose shows up in every move I make now. When I sit down to write or do a podcast, I'm not just filling pages. I'm telling stories that can change the narrative. When I coach the youth baseball team, I'm not just teaching kids a game. I'm pouring discipline, confidence, and teamwork into their lives. When I try to build a business or work on businesses, I'm not just chasing incomes. I'm trying to build stability for my family and opening doors for others. That's what I'm doing. That's intention. That's purpose. And when your purpose fuels your momentum, you stop just existing and you start creating all the time. Your life becomes about creating wealth, success, or responsibility or accountability for someone else. Because when you think about it, prison, man, one careless move, man, could set you back months or even years. I got a whole episode. I try not to delve into that type of stuff, but I can tell you moments where I could have set myself back months or years, right? Out here, it's the same principle. A wasted opportunity, reckless decision, careless word, or inaction, simple inaction. It can derail your momentum. So when your moves are guided by a purpose, even setbacks become setups. Even losses add to your momentum because they teach you, they shape you, and they refine your path. So I live by this: no wasted moves, every step, every conversation, every person I talk to, every choice. It sometimes gives me in trouble because my wife, she looks at me, she be like, you just talk to everybody. You first thing you ask those folks is like, what do they do? Right? Because every conversation, every choice that I make is aligned with my purpose. I know momentum would do its job. I just need to multiply it. Whatever I feed it, that's what's going to come out of it. And I refuse to feed it chaos anymore. Okay. So let's go ahead, and I told you we was going to kind of go around the spectrum on this. So let's keep this momentum rolling. If you're a returning citizen, If you are out here, you're doing great things. Don't forget to reach out to me, man. I love to hear your story. I love for you to share your story with some of the other returning citizens or just society that need to understand that the narrative has been shifted. It's not what you see on the media. It's not what you hear about. Um, and I guess my question is like, where does that leave us now that I've educated you or gave you some type of nugget about how momentum works? Where does that leave us now? Right? Behind bars, again, momentum was about the survival. Out here, momentum was about legacy. Inside, momentum kept you from losing yourself. But out here, momentum builds who you are becoming. So the common thread, take this with you guys. Every move matters. Every single move. So that's the heart of this episode. Don't just move. Don't just have motion. Move with purpose. Don't just roll. Roll in the right direction. Momentum is powerful, but does it decide the path, right? You have to decide the path. So I'll leave you with this. Ask yourself today, what's the purpose behind my next move? You can wake up every morning and ask yourself that. You, I'm telling you, it's a life changer. Not the move you made yesterday, not the one you hope to make someday, but the very next move that you make, right? Because momentum doesn't wait. The ball is always rolling. The only question is it going to roll to? And I promise you this, guys, when you align your momentum with your purpose, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, not because you got it all figured out, not because you're not going to make mistakes, but because momentum multiplies intention. And once you've got that force behind you, carrying you towards your vision, there's no limit to where you can go. I promise you that. So let's keep the momentum rolling, family, not just for today, not just for yourself, but for the legacy you're building, for the lives that you'll touch, the doors that you'll open, the story that you'll leave behind. This is the Conviction Fiction, where we aim to change the narrative and change lives. See you guys later.